Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Today I'm excited. I get to try a couple of things. One of them, this is going to be a bit of a double feature. And I wanted to cover them both at the same time because they came in at the same time. And I was like, yeah, why not? Might as well make it a double feature. But they're really not super closely related. So one of them is an attempt to make me a believer in rum-finished bourbon. Because if you follow my channel for a while, you know that when it comes to rum-finished bourbon, I tend to not score it very well, okay? I do not mind rum-finished ryes. I think that those flavor profiles play pretty well together. But historically, I have not been super kind to too many rum-finished bourbons because I find that it's sweet on sweet, blue on black, tears on river, push on a shove. If you know the artist, you understand what I'm saying. But anyways, I just find it to be overly sweet, okay? Not a very well-balanced sip. And there are very few exceptions to that rule. Well, a friend of ours in the Discord community and Patreon group, Mikey P, decided to try to make me a convert, to make me a believer in rum-finished bourbon. He sent me a sample from his Wild Turkey Master's Keep Voyage. And if you're connected to the whiskey world, you're probably like, dude, Voyage was like 2023. Yeah, you're right. There's actually still Voyage bottles floating around out there because it was not as popular as other Wild Turkey Master's Keep releases. So you can actually find it, and I'm not even kidding. I saw a listing at MSRP today, which is $275 because it is a 10-year-old whiskey coming out of Wild Turkey, finished in Jamaican rum casks. So we'll get to that one first. We'll cover that. Second is the one I'm really looking forward to trying this out. But this is Found North, the Helldiver. It's just, you know, if you follow Found North, this is the most recent 2025 blend, a special release, coming in at 112.4 proof. Now, I will mention real quick, the MSRP for the Helldiver is, I think, $175 or $160. It's like right in there. I think it's 160. Now I'm thinking about it. Pretty sure it's 160. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen somewhere. But what's kind of cool about the Found North is that the youngest juice in there is 15 years old. Okay, 15 years old. As opposed to the Voyage, which is 10 years, 10-year-old juice and considerably more expensive. So anyways, let's dive into these. We'll give them a try. We'll see if this can make me a believer in rum-finished bourbon. And then we'll see how the Found North Helldiver stacks up compared to some of the previous releases, some of which I loved. All right, kicking things off with the Voyage Master's Keep from Wild Turkey, 106 proof. Again, this is the 2023 release. If you listen to the tasting notes and you're like, that sounds incredible, I want that, you can find it still online. You may have to pay a bit of a premium depending on where you go and who you get it from, but it is still an option to you. Now, it says rum-finished casks from Jamaica. Now, I honeymooned in Jamaica. I've been to Jamaica before, and they do have Appleton Estate. I don't know that they ever confirmed this, but I would assume that this is probably Appleton Estate rum, because when it comes to Jamaican rum, Appleton Estate is like the name in rum from Jamaica. And I actually really like Appleton Estate rum quite a bit. In fact, they did a cocktail there in Jamaica. I've never seen it anywhere else in my life. But there was a cocktail in Jamaica that was a blend of Appleton Estate rum, whiskey, and bitters, and they called it a grizzly bear. And I've yet to find it anywhere on a menu to date. But while I was there in Jamaica, I told the people, they were like, because it was an all-inclusive resort, they had a bunch of light beers and stuff like that, and I was like, nah. I mean, you can only drink so many Red Stripes before you're like, okay, give me something stiff. And I told them what I liked, and they didn't have incredible whiskey selections, but they were like, you know what, we'll give you something that's local called a grizzly bear. And then I ordered throughout the week 15 or whatever. I was like, yeah, that's not too bad. Anyways, all this to say, if this is finished in Appleton Estate casks, that's not going to bother me. We'll get in here and nose it. I will say it is very rum forward on the nose. Your sugarcane molasses, thick and sticky kind of a smell. You smell this and then you expect to stick your finger in it and there'd be a big trail of goo coming off your finger, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, great sorghum molasses on the nose. I also think of figs and dates, that kind of a thing. My grandma used to make date pudding. She helped plant churches in North Africa, in the Middle East, and in Eastern Europe. So figs and dates kind of became a staple part of a lot of the dishes she made when I was growing up. But yeah, I get those figs and dates on the nose of this. And I will say, underneath it all, there is that kind of Wild Turkey oak that we're used to, which is subtle vanilla, sweet brown sugar. Not an unappealing nose, but it is very sweet. Let's get in here and try it. Cheers. a lot more tame with the rum on the palate. A lot of times with rum finished bourbons, I tend to get like way too much rum on it, and it kind of drowns out the things I like about bourbon. Some of those subtler sweet notes, like your brown sugars, a little bit of that butterscotch pudding, but those things are still coming through on the palate of this sip, which I do appreciate, as well as a nice little wave of soft oak at the end of it. And there's a little bit of that orange zest. I think the figs and the dates that I was getting on the nose, they come back around, but they're really delicate, really soft. But they come around in the finish. And man, what's really interesting is that I know it's like you can't sense this in a YouTube video because I cut out the downtime. But I literally just sat here with this sip for about a minute and a half. And that rum becomes really prevalent after the sip is pretty well done and over with. But I'm just kind of sitting here gently exhaling through my nose. And as I do, everything's sort of circulating, through your olfactories. And that's where I get that really molassesy, sorghum-y note right in here. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Is it going to make me a believer in all rum finished bourbon? Probably not. I think that most people don't balance out the rum as well as Wild Turkey did here. But I think that they did achieve really good balance here. And I think that it's a really tasty sip. The only knock I would take against it is that the 10-year maturation of the bourbon itself is a little difficult to detect. This is very well balanced. It is very tasty. But I'm not sure that I get enough oomph from the bourbon itself to make me think this has been chilling in a warehouse, just coming of age for 10 straight years, for a full decade of maturation in a nice Kentucky warehouse. I don't know that enough of that comes through to justify the $275 price tag, but this is really good rum finished whiskey. All right, there you have it. Yeah, thanks, Mikey. I appreciate it, brother. Now we move on to the feature event, okay? This is the headliner. This is the Found North Helldiver. And what's interesting about this is that their process for this was a little different than what they normally do. So the process here was, let's make a blend, let's finish it, and then let's make another blend, right? It was blend, finish, blend, which is something they don't normally do. And they're calling this part of their high altitude collection, for those who care about monikers and such. So let me get this right. I gotta rack my brain. So the Helldiver started out initially as a blend of corn whiskeys and rye whiskeys. You had 15-year-old corn whiskey, 22-year-old corn whiskey, and 23-year-old corn whiskey. And then you had 18-year-old rye and 19-year-old rye. Okay, so those five blended together with different ratios. We're not sure what those ratios are. So this carries a minimum age statement of 15 years. But at the high end, you're looking at 23-year-old corn whiskey in here. Then they took that blend and they recasked it. They distributed it among different casks of Pedro Jimenez sherry, cognac, and then new American charred oak. And then they say that they let them sit for a year and they tracked the progress and waited until each barrel individually had reached what they call full maturation. It was like tasting just right. And then about 2/3 of the barrels that they used were good enough to make it into the final blend, where they took those barrels and reblended them all back together into a new whiskey, right? So blended, finished in separate barrels, reblended. That's a lot of work for whatever this is. A lot of effort that went into this pour specifically. And so let's get in here and nose it. I will reiterate, this is a $160 bottle of whiskey. Now, I'm not always a fan of Canadian juice. Okay, I have nothing against it. It's just that for my own personal palate, it takes a really good Canadian blend to blow me away. That being said, Found North has done that to me multiple times. So I do believe that they are really good blenders. Dude, why does this smell like a Twinkie? It smells like a Twinkie. I don't know why, but nosing this makes me think of if you ever were a kid eating Twinkies and you get the two Twinkies on the white piece of plastic, right? And then you pull the Twinkies off, and when you were done, there would be enough of the Twinkie and a little bit of the cream sticking to the plastic, and it was the a little bit more well done part of the Twinkie with the cream, right? Slightly charred, just a little bit charred, and we'd lick it right off the plastic. Raise your hand if you did that. Was I just a weird kid where I was I always look forward to that after I finished my two Twinkies? I got the plastic with the two outlines of the Twinkies with some cream on them. I get to lick the plastic. I always look forward to that. It was like the cherry on top, It's like finishing a milkshake and popping the cherry in your mouth. That was, licking the plastic underneath the Twinkies. Nosing this makes me think of that experience for some reason. Very Twinkie heavy. A little bit of sweet cream. And what would you call that? A pound cake? Is that what Twinkie technically is? It's like a sweet cake of some kind, right? Sweet vanilla cake. The other thing I think of on the nose is like a white chocolate mocha. Have you ever had a white chocolate mocha from, like a Starbucks or whatever? Or your local coffee shop, whatever they call it there. Gives me some of that as well. Just a really light coffee note, but a ton of white chocolate. It smells really desserty, I'll say that. I was worried that the Pedro Jimenez sherry, because sherry casks can get kind of overbearing. I was worried that we were going to get too much of the sherry, but it seems like they've been able to tame that down. I would say that there's a very subtle grapiness to this nose. It is far from being overbearing. Well, let's try it. Cheers. Oh, interesting. It's cool because the rye that's in this blend, it's a delayed detonation, okay? You take the sip, you get the sweetness and the dessertiness of the corn whiskey and the cognac and the sherry, right? Those sweet grapey notes. And then this nice, not a tidal wave, but it's a nice good-sized wave of pepperiness comes and follows it up to give it an immediate sense of balance where it's not all sweet, but you get the pepperiness to sort of offset it. And then as we stretch into the finish, that final stretch of this sip, that's where that Twinkie note comes back around, right? That sweet cake, pound cake, whatever you want to call it, with the sweet cream in there. Boom. That's pretty good. That is very desserty. This is a very good, after dinner pour. I'm glad the cognac is in there. I'm glad that cognac finish is in there, because if it wasn't in there, this would be a very top-heavy, sweet pour. And don't get me wrong, it is very sweet. It is very desserty. But I think the richness that you get, the good robust nature of a distilled wine like cognac, brings a nice base quality that just helps to offset all the treble, okay? It's like the difference between this and this. Yeah, you get a little bit more bass in there to balance it out. Right? Some bass in there, give it some oomph. And that's what the cognac is doing in this blend. So, again, I got to give kudos to Found North because, like I said earlier, there's not a lot of people out there that make me believers in Canadian blends. There are very few distilleries doing it or NDPs doing it that make blends that I want to drink and I want to buy. I think that Found North is consistently doing exactly that. But this is definitely a dessert pour, an after dinner pour. Maybe you got some buddies over, you just finished some steaks on the grill, something like that, whatever it is, and you want to sit down and shoot the breeze over a good dessert pour. Man, this is it. So if I were to give this a score per my scale, I think I'd probably land at like an 8.7. I really appreciate the meticulous nature of this blend and everything that they had to go through to achieve it. And I think that they did a great job. I think if I were to give this any knocks at all, it would be that with that kind of age in this blend, I really do want just a little bit more of an oak forward presence. I want a little bit more mature oak in the sip itself, and I think that that would elevate this even further. But that's being pretty nitpicky. I do think that this is a very well done blend. So kudos to Found North for achieving this. This is great. Yeah, thanks again, Mikey. I appreciate you, brother. Delicious. But I'd be curious to know, just based off of tasting notes alone, disregard price, disregard who made it, but which one of these sounds like a whiskey you would enjoy more? Whether it's the 10-year-old rum cask finish bourbon, or it's the blend of corn whiskeys and rye whiskeys out of Canada, finished in multiple different casks and blended back together. Which one of them sounds like a better whiskey to you? Thanks so much for watching the video today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Big shout out to Randy, who became our latest Grandmaster on the Patreon group. Really appreciate you, brother. That's a huge commitment, and I really do appreciate it. If you're interested in joining our Patreon group and getting involved in some of the activities that we do, you can join for as little as $1. It's like basically free. And a link to that is in the description. But if you just want to get to know our community, you can do that for free, right? Join the Discord group, introduce yourself, see what we're talking about. We've got a nice free Discord for you to join. Everyone's talking in there all the time, sharing pictures of their collections, of their finds, sharing information, giving you heads ups about new releases that should be hitting shelves in your area, all that kind of stuff. Wonderful people. I love being involved in that Discord group. But anyways, with that, I say thank you so much for tuning into the video. If you enjoyed it, would you let me know by leaving a like on the video, as that is the best free way to support the content right here on YouTube. And consider subscribing for additional, I almost said Marvel Rivals. That's not this channel. Additional whiskey content. Cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.